The sun was rising dramatically over a majestic mountain. This wasn't just any mountain. At the summit stood the Star Soul sect, located on the legendary Swantian continent. A crowd had gathered in front of the sect gates, buzzing with energy. Why? Because today was Recruitment Day, a sacred event where ordinary people could try their luck at joining a prestigious cultivation sect. Somewhere nearby, a young man's eyes suddenly snapped open. This was Ye Feng, the main character. He looked around, confused, blinking like someone who just woke up in the wrong universe. Which, to be fair, he had. Then came the headache. A sharp pain shot through his skull like a bad hangover. He clenched his teeth as fragmented memories stormed his brain. He remembered playing a game on his PC, on his home planet. But before he could process his sudden Isekai situation, his head was hit with a montage of this body's original owner. One of a birth, one of peeping at women, and one tragic scene where the kid told his mom he wanted to become a cultivator, only to be told they didn't have enough money. Today, Ye Feng realized he wasn't on Earth anymore. He had transmigrated into a world where martial prowess was everything. And today might have been the OG body's chance to join a sect and finally change his fate. He processed the memories quickly. This was a cultivation world full of fierce competition, where thousands tried to join sects and level up in life. Suddenly, the massive, majestic gates of the Star Soul sect creaked open. From within, a glowing figure emerged, and the crowd lost their collective minds, charging toward the gate. Ye Feng, meanwhile, stood in front of the entrance, stroking his chin like a man trying to look deep. He noted that this sect had only been established half a month ago, and no one really knew the true strength of its leader. It was holding its very first assessment exam today. Unlike the mob rushing toward the exam, Ye Feng decided, nah. He turned away from the crowd. After all, he hadn't unlocked any powers, items, or mysterious plot armor just yet. It was smarter to stay low-key and find somewhere to crash until the cheat system arrived. But fate had other plans. Suddenly, a beam of light crashed down in front of the sect gate, and from the dust, two figures descended. The crowd froze, jaws dropped. Out stepped a woman, graceful, radiant, and clearly expensive-looking. She introduced herself. I am Luo Qianshui, leader of the Star Soul sect. Your age, aptitude, or current cultivation level do not matter. The crowd went wild, not just from the announcement, but because she looked like a supermodel blessed by the heavens. 10 out of 10. Even Ye Feng mentally bookmarked her under Cultivation Crush. He thought women here are truly beautiful than the fake ones in his world. But then, raising one finger, she declared, "You may join," by handing over 10,000 spirit stones within the hour. Silence. And then, rage. One by one, people flipped. What kind of scam is this? One spirit stone feeds my family for a month. If I had 10,000, I'd be the sect leader myself. Ye Feng was also stunned. This world really out here charging this much as subscription fees for enlightenment? It reminded him of those shady companies back home that made you pay before hiring you. Only a complete fool would pay that, he mumbled. And just as he turned to leave, it happened. Ding! A glowing interface popped up in front of him. It was his cheat system, finally. And not just any cheat. This was the Invincible Big Spender system. Ye Feng blinked. What the hell is that name? System? Hello? Show me what you do. The system replied with its no-nonsense message. Spend money equals get strong. Just splurge and let me cook. Ye Feng opened his status panel. Low combat level. No items, no skills. So far, so pathetic. But then came the twist. His first big spender product? A pack of 10,000 Tier 9 Heavenly Thunder Talismans. Okay, that's overkill. Another pop-up appeared. Spirit stones and spirit crystals granted. Unlimited balance. He was rich. Filthy, cheat code rich. The system explained the rules like it was running a finance app. Waste too little? You are a failure. Waste too much? You're just dumb and a failure. Spend just right? You win. If you win, big spender points gained. Otherwise, point decrease. He could earn big spender points by completing system-given missions. Points could be used to level up, learn martial arts, and unlock special abilities. Yi Feng read everything carefully inside. So, it's not just a spend money to win system. It's a rich, but not dumb system. Great. Then, bam. First mission dropped. Join the Star Soul Sect. Success, plus 100 points. Failure, minus 100. Reject, optional. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Luo Qianshui was standing near the cliffs, her eyes on the mountains. Behind her stood Elder Bai, the man who had landed beside her earlier. "My lady, people here are poor," he asked. "You did this on purpose, didn't you? Raising the entry fee so no one would join?" She smiled bitterly. "I know, but if they didn't, that is their unwillingness to join. Even my father can't interfere." In her mind, she saw a vision of a man on a heavenly throne. Her father, Luo Wuming, leader of the powerful Star Pole sect. He was the one who ordered her to build this sect, supposedly to sharpen her mind. What he didn't know was that Luo Qianshui had once been a saintess of the everlasting shrine, a powerful cultivator betrayed and reborn in this world. And all she wanted now was one thing: ascend and take revenge. "I'll tell my master what happened after I ascend," she vowed. Cosmos Sword Sect, Penglai Island of Immortals, Sky Martial Sect, I'll make them all pay. Back in the present, no one had paid up. Seeing that, Luo Qianshui turned to leave. "Let's go, Elder Bai. It's impossible. Even if someone had that much money, they wouldn't waste it on us." But then, "Sect leader, wait!" A loud voice cut through the air. She turned, surprised. "I'd like to join," the voice continued, "seeing that the sect is in need of funds. I'm willing to contribute 100,000 spirit stones." Luo Qianshui froze. 100,000 spirit stones, even in a wealthy sect. That was big money. In this backwater region? Unbelievable. She turned slowly and saw a young man standing confidently, arms crossed. It was Ye Feng, our boy, finally stepping into his main character energy. Elder Bai looked like someone had just thrown a spirit crystal at his face. "You? You're serious?" Ye Feng nodded. Moments ago, he'd said only a fool would pay. Now, he was that fool. With a smirk and the confidence of a billionaire in a sandbox game, Ye Feng raised his hand. A storage ring shimmered. Ye Feng, our gold-throwing mad lad, casually tossed the ring at Luo Qianshui with a smile. Luo Qianshui caught it and looked at it with a surprised face. She immediately peeked inside the ring, probably expecting pebbles or fake coupons. But no. Boom. 100,000 spirit stones. The real deal. She froze like a Windows XP error, internally screaming, "Ah! Who let this lunatic into my sect?" Coughing twice to recover some shred of dignity. With a face that screamed in annoyance, she said, "You sure you want to join our sect? We don't even have a bed for you to sleep on." Ye Feng, not even fazed. He casually raised a hand and said, "No big deal. I'm loaded. I'll build us a sect mansion if I have to." At this point, Luo Qianshui's soul had started buffering. She tried again, this time with the "Are you sure about that?" look. "Our sect has 0 cultivation resources. Joining us is career suicide." But Ye Feng, powered by his mysterious spending system, was richer than her excuses. Giving her a thumbs up like this was a vacation package deal. He declared, "No problem, sect leader. If you're short on resources, I'll just buy all of them for you." At this point, her blood pressure straight up filed a resignation letter. She stared at him in disbelief. This man, this creature, was determined. Ye Feng, however, began to suspect something. Just a hunch that maybe, just maybe, Luo Qianshui didn't want him in the sect. She clenched her fist like she was ready to uppercut a ghost, but instead, she held back her rage like a true professional. In her head, though, she was violently shaking him by the collar. "Can't you see I don't want you here?" Externally, with a calm look, she said, "Fine. You can join, but I won't teach you anything. No instructions, no guidance. You'll have to figure everything out by yourself. Yefeng blinked. Pause. Processing. He stood there, actually thinking it through. Luo Qianshui noticed the hesitation and felt smug. Finally, the madness ends. Surely he'll back off now, but Yefeng's brain, powered by the ancient art of plot armor, reached a different conclusion. Wait, no guidance? No rules? I can do my missions without any restrictions. This is perfect. And just like that, he smiled. I don't need anything from you. Luo Qianshui.exe has stopped responding. She physically fell over. Elder Bai rushed to her like an overworked ER nurse. Yao Feng stood there, blinking in confusion. Did I say something wrong? Luo Qianshu, flat on the floor, was ready to sacrifice this man to the heavens. Why? Why was he so cheerful after dropping 100,000 spirit stones for a sect like this? Was this some form of divine punishment? In a fit of fury, she pulled out her dagger, eyes full of murder is now Plan A. Yefeng nearly met the end of his starter arc, but old Bai stopped her like a veteran daycare worker stopping a toddler from eating glue. Young miss, we can't afford to make things worse. He's the only one who met our requirements. You have to accept him. Yefeng just stood there, still confused. Shouldn't she be happy I'm funding the entire sect? Luo Qianshui finally calmed down. With straight, she muttered, Fine, from today, you're a disciple of the Star Spirit sect. Elder Bai exhaled. Yao Feng, meanwhile, saw that glorious system notification pop up. Task complete. Spent 100,000 spirit stones and joined the Star Soul sect, earned 200 big spender points. Grinning like a kid, Ye Feng thought, no clue what these points do, but free is free. He then asked the system what to do next. If there were no big spending missions, what's the move? The system, in full support of reckless capitalism, responded, During downtime, you may explore personal spending behaviors. Big spending actions will still earn you points. Quantity doesn't matter. Impact does. Ye Feng nodded, absorbing that capitalist wisdom like a sponge. Meanwhile, Luo Qianshui was already walking away, probably muttering prayers to the universe. But Ye Feng wasn't done. He chased after her, calling out, Wait! If I'm the only disciple, doesn't that make me your direct disciple? Luo Qianshui stopped mid-step and said, Nope, we don't do direct disciples here. She turned, looked at him with pouty face and thought, letting you join was already emotionally damaging. Being my direct disciple? Absolutely not. But Ye Feng, persistent, offered a deal. What if I bought the position? Name your price. Everything froze. Luo Qianshui and Elder Bai blinked. Did he just try to purchase his way into a title? Coming back to her senses, Luo Qianshui couldn't help but laugh. This guy really was something. Raising her hand like an auctioneer, she smirked and declared, Sure, 100,000 high-quality spirit stones, and I'll consider it. Ye Feng's brain blue-screened. What? The wind blew. The mountains were silent. Ye Feng squinted and asked, Sorry, what did you say just now? You could practically hear the record scratch in Luo Qianshui's brain. With a smug little grin forming like she'd just beaten a final boss, Qianshui smirked. Where's your confidence now, money boy? After all, not even a third-rate sect could casually toss around 100,000 high-quality spirit stones, right? How could some mortal peasant even dream of that? Wrong, because in the next frame, she got sucker-punched by reality. Ye Feng blinked in surprise. Wait, that's it? Only 100K? He looked genuinely confused, like the menu said $1.50 for a lobster buffet. With the confidence of a man who's never had a financial struggle in his life, Ye Feng casually reached into his robe and pulled out a storage ring like it was loose change. Here, take this. It's got 500,000 high-quality spirit stones. The extra 400,000 is just a little thank you gift for accepting me as your disciple. The system shows a message. Ding! Plus 200 big spender points. Luo Qianshui, on the other hand, she was going through a full existential crisis. What have I done with my life? 500,000 high-quality spirit stones That kind of money in a third-rate sect could get you a statue, a holiday, and a cult following. And he gave it to her? Sighing like someone who just lost a bet with the universe, she pulled out a sword and officially accepted him as her direct disciple. "This sword," she said, handing him a pitch-black blade, "is your welcome gift. If this gets out, the saintess of the everlasting shrine, taking bribes to accept disciples, my career's gonna be toast." Meanwhile, Ye Feng just touched the sword, and boom. System jump scare. Real big spenders don't accept gifts. Minus 20 points. Return within 1 hour to refund. Ye Feng's brain. Bro, seriously, even the system is a brand snob now? Immediately, Ye Feng drops to his knees like he just offended heaven. Loud thud. Sword raised above his head. Qiangshu, what are you doing? She looked at him with surprise. Ye Feng, face dead serious. I don't deserve this sword, but if you really insist on giving it to me, just name a price. Boom. Instant anger. Qiangshu snatched the sword back, veins popping. You think everything can be bought? She pouted. This brat has no sense. That was a 7th-rank spiritual weapon. And he just handed it back like it was a toothbrush. She dipped annoyed. Ye Feng stood there, blinking, confused. Elder Bai, is the sect master, not very business savvy? I literally offered money. Elder Bai chuckled. He said, Careful, young man. She still has ears. And a sword. But in his head, Old Bai was seriously wondering, where did this kid get that kind of wealth? A hidden tycoon? Sugar baby of a god? Still, he smiled to himself. Maybe this arrogant moneybag would be the key to shaking up their sect's stale vibes. With that, Old Bai pointed toward the sect and said, Follow me. And off they flew, riding flying swords through the clouds. Ye Feng, bored out of his skull, started counting birds mid-air. He even let one nest on his head. Dude, was that chill. Then he remembered, System, how do I use my big spender points? A shiny screen popped up. Bing, big spending points. 400 today's earnings. Still untouched. Ye Feng's smirk returned. Time to go shopping. Then, Ye Feng casually pulled the bird nest off his head. Right after that majestic wildlife moment, the system popped up. Behold, the 9 realms of cultivation. From bottom to top, the menu went Spirit Sea, Qi Gathering, Spirit Fusion, Foundation Establishment, Soul Formation, Amethyst Palace, Primordial Soul, Void Realm, and the final boss, Transcending Tribulation. Each realm had 9 layers. Now here's the juicy part. Big spender points could actually be used to level up through those realms. System did the math for him like a stingy accountant. Spirit Sea, 10 points per level. Qi Gathering, 100 per level. Higher realms? Hope you've got a black card. Ye Feng's face froze. Excuse me, that's a 10x jump per realm? I'm gonna need a lottery system just to stay alive. Feeling overwhelmed, Ye Feng tapped open the big spender shop to cheer himself up. There it was, a gachapon wonderland. Mystery containers lined up like slot machines, each costing 100 points. The fine print? The higher the reward tier, the lower the chance of actually getting it. So basically, this was spiritual loot box gambling. Ye Feng tilted his head. This feels like a scam. I love it. His internal monologue. I want a high-tier spirit herb. But spirit ores sound cool too. But can I use those for... Before he could spiral too deep into shopping addiction, the system cut in like a nosy mom. FYI, you can earn points by flexing. For example, crush a 9th-grade medicinal pill in front of a 9th-grade alchemist. That counts. Ye Feng's imagination ran wild. He stood in front of some top-tier pill master, crushed the pill with a smirk, and said, Oops. He was still technically a spiritual kindergartner. Trying that stunt now? Instant death by offended cultivator. Back to reality. Instead of pulling stunts, Ye Feng decided to use his points responsibly. Shocking, I know. He spent 90 points to boost himself to the 9th level of Spirit Sea Realm in one go. Spiritual energy started swirling around him. He closed his eyes and began meditating mid-air. Behind him, Old Bai suddenly stopped flying and squinted. Huh? Old Man turned around, and his jaw dropped like a drawbridge. Wait, He's forming his spirit sea, mid-air, mid-ride, mid-life crisis. He probed the energy field around Yifeng and almost had a spiritual stroke. What? What kind of spirit sea is this? This man's spirit pool is bigger. His one bigger than 20 men's combined. Meanwhile, Yifeng's consciousness was sinking with the universe. His eyelids fluttered open for a second. He sighed. Still not done? I just opened the spiritual sea. Then how long it would to break through to the peak of spirit sea realm. Spiritual energy kept pouring in like he left the faucet on. Old Bai just stood there, mentally writing his will. He's still going? Is he trying to break through? Old Bai's cultivation teacher instincts kicked in. Usually the first step in cultivation is to form the spirit sea, which is like laying the foundation. Normally, forming the spirit sea is a sacred, quiet ritual, he thought. You need medicinal pills, a calm environment, maybe some candles, not a joyride and vibes. And yet here was Yifeng, flying, meditating, breaking realms, no pills, no guidance, just vibes and a discount system. Then the real insanity hit. Yifeng didn't just form the spirit sea, he shattered levels like glass, from level 1 all the way to the peak of level 9 in one single sitting. No effort, no movement, just autopilot ascension. Old Bai watched in spiritual horror. Am I hallucinating? Am I in a dream? Eventually, Yifeng blinked back to life. Even his breakthrough was taking too long for his taste. Yes, because to him, 10 minutes was practically failure. Shouldn't this have been instantaneous? He muttered. And looking at Elder Bai, it took me 10 minutes. That's so long. Elder Bai, do you think Sect Master will be disappointed in me? Disappointed. In a 10-minute, 9-layer breakthrough. Old Bai just stared. He had nothing. No comeback. Just the crushing weight of comparison. It took me 8 months to do what he just did in 10 minutes. With pills, with guidance, with tears, he finally asked the one logical thing left. Wait, is that why you didn't want cultivation techniques or weapons? You must have some ancient divine method, right? Yifeng blinked innocently. Technique? What technique? I don't have one. I don't even have spiritual roots. Old Bai's soul left his body. Old Bai had heard some nonsense in his time. But this? No spiritual roots? And still broke through like a divine beast on steroids? In pure disbelief, he slapped his hand on Yifeng's head. A second later, he recoiled, mouth open, eyes twitching. It's true! This guy really has no spiritual roots. Yifeng just blinked innocently. Of course, Elder Bai. Why would I lie to you? Old Bai was struggling, internally buffering. Did he even actually open a spirit sea? Or is it something else? At this point, Elder Bai had mentally filed this entire kid under someone else's problem. Let's go, he grumbled. Once we're back at the sect, the young mistress can figure you out. Translation. Not my circus, not my spiritual freak show. Meanwhile, back at the sect HQ, Luo Qianshui was waiting, legs crossed. Mood mildly homicidal. They were late, very late. And if there's one thing cultivator Saintesses hate more than demon beasts, it's waiting. Old Bai finally arrived and, trembling like a caffeine addict, dropped the spiritual bombshell. Yifeng. He broke through to the peak of spirit sea realm, and, his spiritual sea is like 20 times bigger than yours. He has no spiritual roots. Qian Shui's eyebrows left orbit. Say what now? She shot up, marched over, and slapped her hand on Yifeng's head. And just like that, confirmation. It was all real. No spiritual roots? And you still opened a spirit sea and hit peak level? How? Yifeng was just about to explain when a voice echoed from outside like a walking insult. Star Soul Sect. Your guests from the Full Moon Sect have arrived. Come out and greet your betters. Everyone turned. At the door stood a smug elderly man and his disciples, flexing like background villains. With the audacity of a man who hadn't brushed his beard in 200 years, the elder declared, how shameful. A sect with no disciples calling itself a sect. What a joke. Great. First, I get a mystery moneybags disciple with no roots. Now this? Can I get one day of peace without drama? With all the grace of a ticked-off queen, She strutted outside, Ye Feng and Old Bai flanking her like bodyguards. "So," she said, "what do you want?" The old man smirked. "I heard your sect charges 10,000 spirit stones to join." "Intriguing. So I brought my disciples to test your new recruit." Luo Qianshui was seething. If she didn't had even one disciple, she would have just told them to get lost. But this actually can be good. If Ye Feng got beat up on day one, he might run off crying. So she switched to her "I'm totally calm, but secretly planning your doom" voice. "Ye Feng," she said, "these three are all at the 9th layer of Spirit Sea Realm. Are you confident?" Ye Feng blinked. "Wait, can I use talismans?" "Because he just happened to have 10,000 of them." Casual. When she nodded, Ye Feng cracked his knuckles and stepped forward. Across from him, the 3 full moon disciples prepared for battle like it was a school play. That was their first mistake. Because Ye Feng? He casually summoned a mountain of heavenly thunder talismans. The disciples' jaws hit the floor. Even the elder's monocle almost popped off, except he wasn't wearing one. Wait, each of those talismans, that's the energy of a 9th grade spirit item. Each one can obliterate a spirit sea level opponent. He has a whole pile? Before anyone could blink, he started rapid-firing them like he was at a spiritual arcade. Luo Qianshu, internally panicking. What? What is he doing? These are 9th grade talismans. Each one costs at least 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. Ye Feng, smiling like a lunatic, tossing bombs like candy. The field looked less like a duel and more like a spiritual New Year's celebration. Explosions, fireworks, screaming disciples running like cartoon characters. Old Bai's beard got curled from the shockwaves. Luo Qianshui forgot how to blink. This wasn't a fight. This was financial arson. Each talisman was a trump card in normal hands. A weapon of last resort, something you'd use to save your life. But Ye Feng? Ye Feng used them for fun. The battlefield was a mess. The 3 disciples of the full moon sect? Shell-shocked, trembling, spiritually traumatized. One of them choked out, "Master, we gotta leave! Now!" Another screamed like he'd just seen death itself. "We messed with the wrong sect. They treat 9th-ranked talismans like party poppers." Meanwhile, Luo Qianshui stood on the sidelines, watching Ye Feng go full Michael Bay. Her inner monologue, "Wait, I thought he'd get slapped around, realize life is hard, and leave the sect crying. But no, now he's out here casually nuking people." Ye Feng turned to his master, smug as ever. His expression practically said, "I did good, right?" But Luo Qianshui misread the situation completely. "Oh, so you think I was scared and that's why I sent you out there? Looks like I need to remind you who's boss, you overgrown firecracker." Back in the ring, hours had passed. And Ye Feng? Still throwing talismans, still enjoying himself, explosions everywhere. The 3 disciples could only dodge and scream. Ye Feng, his inner thoughts, "Man, this is therapy. I never want this to end." Eventually, the disciples couldn't take it anymore. They collapsed at their master's feet, hugging his knees, crying like drama students. "Master, please! We're done! No more thunder!" The elderly man's face twisted. He looked at Ye Feng, at the sea of glowing talismans, and made a critical error in judgment. Wait a minute. Are all these talismans supplied by the Star Soul sect? No wonder they charge 10,000 spirit stones to join. Realizing he had poked a hornet's nest, he bowed nervously to Luo Qianshui. "Ah. Sect leader Luo. So sorry about that. Huge misunderstanding. I'll, bring you a generous apology gift later. We'll take our leave now." But Luo Qianshui wasn't done. Oh no. This was her moment to drop the hammer. She released a fraction of her cultivation aura, and bam! Old man's eyes went wide. His soul almost left his body. She's in the primordial spirit realm. She could solo our entire sect." He was trembling like a man who just realized he poked a sleeping dragon. But instead of erasing them from existence, Qianshui smiled coldly. Her demand? Leave an arm each. if you want to keep your lives." The entire full moon group, one by one, they cracked their own arms like glow sticks at a rave, bowed, and limped off into the sunset. Meanwhile, Ye Feng watched all this like a puppy seeing its owner turn into a tiger. "Huh, my masters. Kinda terrifying." Qian Shui strutted back, all calm and collected. But inside, I still couldn't get rid of him. Not even after all that. Outwardly, she cleared her throat. "Ye Feng, go retrieve the remaining talismans." Ye Feng blinked. "Actually, I had a request." Qian Shui's eyes narrowed. "Now what?" Ye Feng smiled. "I still have over 9,000 Heavenly Thunder talismans. I can't throw them all by myself. Wanna help?" Luo Qianshui had no words. "Deep breaths, Luo. You are a saintess. You have an image to maintain. If he's going to treat these divine weapons like confetti, then I shall too. Let the heavens witness my indifference." She looked at him and nodded. "Very well." The two of them then stood side by side and started chucking Heavenly Thunder talismans like deities of destruction. Boom! Over 3,000 thrown, and in that moment, Luo Qianshui smiled. Her mind drifted to her past life, a memory. Her junior sister once said, "Don't be so boring, senior sister. Cultivating all the time will make you old and bitter. If you never have fun, won't you regret it on your deathbed?" And for the first time in a long time, Luo Qianshui felt like maybe that annoying junior had a point. Meanwhile, back inside the sect, old Bai was napping peacefully. Then, boom! He leapt out of bed like someone who heard the fire alarm. "We're under attack!" Old Bai, spiritual veteran and part-time nap enthusiast, was rudely awakened by what sounded like divine artillery shelling. The noise? Deafening. The vibes? Apocalyptic. The cause? Thunder talismans. Again. Grumbling, he rolled out of bed, slapped on his robes like he was late for work, and stormed outside. What he saw made him want to go back to sleep, permanently. Ye Feng and Luo Qianshui were still at it, still throwing Heavenly Thunder talismans like a pair of lunatics at a spiritual carnival. Explosions lit the sky. Old Bai clutched his head. "What, in the name of the ancestors, are you two doing?" Ye Feng, cool as ever, looked up with a grin. "Elder Bai, you're just in time. Want to join in?" Luo Qianshui turned her head gracefully and added, "We're just disposing of some excess talismans." Old Bai's eye twitched so hard it almost activated a new cultivation realm. He bonked Ye Feng on the head with the fury of a disappointed grandpa. "Disposing? Each one of these costs 1,000 low-grade spirit stones." He pointed at Ye Feng. "You, young lady, what happened to your morals? Why are you enabling this madness?" Ye Feng, ever the diplomat, calmly pulled out a storage ring, offered it like a peace offering. "Elder Bai, I'm truly sorry for disturbing your rest. Please accept this small gift. 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. For, tonics." "Yes, tonics." Old Bai stared and said, "Don't look down on me," then tore open his shirt, muscles bulging, veins flexing. "I may be old, but I am full of vigor." And with that, he joined the talisman throwing squad. He wasn't just participating, he was leading, tossing thunder talismans faster than Ye Feng could blink. The man went from grumpy elder to spiritual Rambo in 5 seconds. System. Ding! You've earned 100 big spender points for your spiritual sugar daddy moment. Ye Feng. Wait, giving money to old Bai counts too? Nice. I should bribe him more often. Fast forward to sunrise. The courtyard? Gone. Blown into a crater so deep it probably hit another sect's basement. Old Bai sat down, shirtless and emotionally broken. He stared into the abyss. What am I doing with my life? I used to be respected. Now I'm throwing thunder talisman for exercise. But as the breeze blew through his ancient abs, he turned to Ye Feng. If there's any manual labor in the future, count me in. I may be old, but I'm still built like a beast. Qian Shui, watching silently, felt her future flash before her eyes. Only 3 people in the sect, but I feel like this sect be in chaos soon. This sect is doomed, she muttered internally. Then she smirked. Elder Bai, you're one of the 8 senior elders of the Star Pole sect. Did you really just sell yourself out? For a mere 100,000 high-grade spirit stones? Old Bai puffed his chest. It's not about the money, it's about the dignity of the elderly. System. Ding! Yi Feng earned 1,000 big spender points for thoroughly wasting today's big spender item. Yi Feng grinned. That's enough to blast through Qi Gathering Realm and buy some extra loot boxes. Let's go! 1,000 points to break through, a few hundred left to buy 5 random item jars. But then, reality hit. Ye Feng looked around. Only 3 people in this sect. That's a serious waste efficiency bottleneck. If I had more junior disciples, just imagine how much faster I could waste money. If I expand the sect, pay all the expenses, and waste money more. This is genius. He raised his arms dramatically, face rise towards the sky. This way earning point would be so easy, as if the heavens heard his call. A knock. A voice came from the gates. Does your sect still accept new disciples? It was a boy named Wu Feng. The moment Wu Feng stepped foot into the Star Soul sect, he had one overwhelming thought. Did I just enter a post-apocalyptic refugee camp? The ground? Covered in craters. The air? Still smelled like lightning and regret. The visuals? One old man wheezing like he just finished a 3-hour workout, a woman with don't talk to me energy, and a smiling dude who looked like he thought air was a snack. Instant regret. Wu Feng was already calculating escape routes. If I run now, maybe I can pretend this never happened. But it was too late. Ye Feng appeared like a welcoming committee sent by delusion itself. Welcome! Yes, we're still recruiting. He even had a price list. 10,000 low-grade spirit stones to join. But if you contribute 100,000 high-grade spirit stones, you can become the sect master's direct disciple. Ye Feng then puffed up proudly. I'm Ye Feng, first disciple, first direct disciple. Basically, the sect's spiritual CEO Wu Feng blinked twice. This was a scam. A full-blown, robe-wearing, thunder-throwing pyramid scheme. Ye Feng, meanwhile, was internally praying, please say you can't afford it. Please say you're broke. Please let me sponsor you. But the system popped up like a killjoy tax auditor. Sponsoring new disciples without a justifiable reason does not qualify as proper waste. He coughed. I just feel a connection with this guy. Like brother from another mother vibes, you know? Is it wrong to splurge a little for family? Somehow, the system bought it. Reason accepted. Proceed with emotional wallet burn. Unfortunately, Wu Feng was already moonwalking toward the exit. Nope. Too weird, too broke in advance. But just before he slipped out the gates, chokehold activation, Ye Feng grabbed him. Where are you going, Brother Wu? We're just getting started. Suddenly, shadowy message beam, Wu Feng's jade pendant vibrated. A message from his grandfather. Stay in the Star Soul sect. I'll come for you once my business is finished. Sigh, Grandpa said it. That meant no running. Wu Feng resigned himself to his fate, eyes empty, soul already halfway detached. Meanwhile, not far from the gate, a mysterious old man watched, recognizing Luo Qianshui's sect. Seeing old Bai standing tallish gave him confidence. All right, my grandson won't die immediately. Good enough. Back at the sect, Ye Feng cheerfully dragged Wu Feng like a trophy pet to Luo Qianshui. Master, I found my junior. Isn't he obedient-looking? Qianshui stared blankly. At this point, what even is my life? Still, she thought maybe she could scare this one away. Newbie, she said, hand over 10,000 low-grade spirit stones if you really want in. Surely this would break him. But no, Wu Feng casually pulled out a full payment without blinking. I'd like to join. Qianshui's inner voice. Excuse me, what? Didn't this guy just try to escape 5 minutes ago? She started questioning her entire worldview. Did something change in society while I was in seclusion? Is this what kids are into now? Reverse psychology sect recruiting? Left with no choice, she accepted him. But she wasn't letting this one off easy. I will not be giving you any guidance. Cultivate on your own. But of course, this was Star Soul sect. Plot twist time. Wu Feng replied calmly, no problem. My grandfather already gave me everything I need. Kengshu rage, glitch. Why is kids in these days enjoy playing fools? Old Bai, fully enjoying the show, from the side. Congratulations, miss. Another disciple acquired. Changshu, emotionally defeated, sighed and said, Fine, I'll teach you both tomorrow. Find your own place to sleep. She walked away, soul drifting. Ye Feng, concerned, thought to himself, looks like Master's about to go insane from all this. She's actually said she is going to instruct us now. Wu Feng, meanwhile, looked at his new senior disciple and wondered, is this guy really the top of the sect? How do I survive this? Ye Feng also took another glance at Wu Feng's subtle wealth aura. He changed his plan immediately. Yeah, I'm not sponsoring this dude to become a direct disciple. He's clearly loaded. Finally, Ye Feng initiated the ancient sect ritual, friendly bragging. So, junior brother, what's your name? Leng Wu Feng? Excellent. From this day forth, I, Ye Feng, promote you to inner sect disciple. Wu Feng, based on what system of ranking? Ye Feng, based on me being your senior and also extremely generous. And so, day passed in the Star Soul sect, where explosions were free, guidance was optional, and promotions came with a smile and no logic. After settling into his cozy, chaos-infested sect, Ye Feng set his sights on his next noble goal, fleecing his junior brother. Naturally, walking into Wu Feng's quarters, he spotted something that actually looked impressive. A glimmering alchemy furnace. Sleek, expensive, and probably capable of cooking souls on low heat. Eyes narrowing, Ye Feng asked, So, you an alchemist? Wu Feng raised 3 fingers. Third grade, he said proudly. Chest puffed out like he'd just won a medal at the Cultivator Olympics. In this world, alchemists were basically rock stars in robes. People bowed to them, worshipped them. Why? Because pills, talismans, artifacts, and formations could literally decide one's cultivation and survival. So, Wu Feng, he was already imagining the future. Ye Feng would kneel and beg, Oh, great Wu Feng, please refine pills for this humble senior. Wu Feng, humble and righteous, would sigh, Fine, I shall help you, once. Except that entire fantasy popped like a soap bubble. Ye Feng responded to his alchemist status with, Oh, just, oh. Wu Feng's brain. Processing error. Please restart pride.exe. Wait, what? Just, oh? I'm a third-grade alchemist, man. You're supposed to gasp, clap, cry, offer me incense? But no, Ye Feng casually changed the subject like nothing happened. So, among third-grade herbs, which ones are rare? Wu Feng, still mentally lagging, listed, phantom bamboo grass, snow spirit flower, purple thunderfruit. Oh, and fantasy mushrooms. Super rare stuff. Even 9th-grade alchemists don't see those often. Ye Feng nodded. Then he turned away and casually opened up the system shop. He dumped 1,200 big spender points for jars. A few seconds later, out popped 2 phantom bamboo grass, 1 snow spirit flower, 3 purple thunderfruit. Ye Feng stood frozen, staring at the treasure haul. Wu Feng saw the pause and smiled smugly. Aha! He doesn't recognize the herbs? Rookie mistake. Trying to be kind, he offered, It's all right, senior brother. Many people who don't study alchemy can't identify them. Don't feel bad. Ye Feng turned and smiled. Oh, I'm just going to grab you a drink. And he dashed off. Wu Feng, touched, thought, Wow, my senior's weird, but he's thoughtful. I'll definitely craft him something later. Enter Ye Feng with a steaming pot of soup. Smells great. Looks fancy. Wu Feng took one look and alarm bells. His rare herbs were floating in the broth, like garnish. He fished them out in a panic, eyes wide. These were spiritual treasures, worth more than entire sects. This man made herbal soup out of my legendary ingredients. Wu Feng stuttered. Brother, these are treasures. You just casually boiled them? Ye Feng looked confused. I heard brewing herbs boosts their effects. My bad. I thought you would like it. Then he did the unthinkable. He threw the herbs on the ground and crushed them with his bare foot. He even ground them in a little circle like he was seasoning a pizza. Wu Feng screamed. No! He dove in, trying to salvage even a tiny fragment of his beautiful spiritual babies. but it was too late. Gone, pulverized, dusted, not even soup-worthy. Wu Feng just knelt there, dazed, spiritually broken, mentally gone. The furnace in his heart extinguished. Meanwhile, the system pinged. Ding! You've earned 1,500 Big Spender points for Ultimate Alchemist Trauma Waste Combo. Yeah, Feng. Huh. So that counted. Next time I'll waste 4 herbs at once for even more points. And that's how, in under 10 minutes, Ye Feng emotionally murdered an alchemist with soup, footwork, and passive-aggressive generosity. Ye Feng chuckled to himself like a man who just discovered fire. Sure, he'd crushed some rare herbs underfoot, but hey, he still had 6 left. And most importantly, it was profitable. 1,500 Big Spender points for a few crushed plants? Not bad. Meanwhile, Wu Feng was in emotional freefall. His inner voice, those herbs. My ancestors haven't even seen those herbs, and this lunatic stomped them. Tears streamed down Wu Feng's face, bitter, painful, alchemical. Ye Feng patted him gently like one would a crying child. There, my bad. I didn't know they were that valuable. Anyway, they're already ground paste now. Get some rest. I'll be leaving. Back in his room, our enlightened spender got creative again. He tossed the remaining spiritual herbs into a foot-soak tub. Yes, a foot soak. He leaned back and exhaled. Now this is the life. Unfortunately, he failed to notice one minor detail. He's losing HP, and his feet were slowly turning black. Meanwhile, outside, Wu Feng, still recovering from emotional whiplash, suddenly remembered something. Wait, those 2 herbs. He sprinted toward Ye Feng's room. Important alchemy fact. Phantom bamboo grass plus purple thunder fruit equals toxin explosion combo. Not deadly, just really hard to cure. And ugly. Just as Wu Feng was about to knock, Ye Feng let out a scream that could wake the dead. Wu Feng didn't hesitate. He kicked the door open like an action hero. He saw it. The tub, the herbs, the feet, the full, horrifying scene. His face turned darker than Ye Feng's feet. Ye Feng, oblivious to the emergency, blinked. What? What's wrong? Wu Feng didn't even respond. His soul had exited his body temporarily. System. Ding. Successful waste detected. 1,500 Big Spender points. Also, for just 1,000 points, Ye Feng could completely remove the toxin. Ye Feng. Oh, nice. Convenient. He discreetly activated the detox. In mere seconds, his feet returned to their pure, pre-herb glory. Wu Feng was stunned. This toxin, it's notoriously hard to treat. Even my grandpa would take days. And right then, Ye Feng did the unthinkable. He put his feet back in. Again, smiling like a man in a bubble bath of chaos. Relax, junior brother. Actually, want to join me? My tub's big enough. We can do a foot-soak bonding session. Wu Feng, that is toxic water. I refuse. He turned his back, utterly defeated. I've seen enough. I'm out. Just as he was leaving, a dark thought passed through his mind. Should I tell sect leader Chen Shu? These herbs probably belong to the sect. But no, he wasn't a snitch. Just a spiritually broken alchemist with trauma flashbacks. So he left in silence, muttering prayers. Ye Feng, meanwhile, had a great soak, cleanse, detox, peace. Then, casually, he dropped 900 Big Spender points to blast his cultivation to 9th level of Qi activation realm. Because why not? Meanwhile, over in the sect's main hall, Luo Qianshui was in mid-conference with Elder Bai, deep in discussion. And the topic? Ye Feng's background. Because while Ye Feng was soaking his feet in a pot of spiritual death, the higher-ups were finally realizing, maybe we should have checked this kid's resume before letting him in.